In the not too distant future, Earth is in peril, so we are sending people into space aboard a tiny rocket ship. They can take with them 7 books. The first 5 are their favourites. The 6th is one they hate so much they get thrown into space to consign it to obscurity forever. And the 7th is the book they would commit to the canon, for which humanity will be remembered. Co-produced by Bookmark London and Morocco Bound Bookshop and hosted by me, Atta W. This is Rocket Ship Reads. My guest today is the wonderful Dean Atta. Dean, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
So are we on the rocket ship right now?
We are preparing for launch.
Okay.
I really appreciate it when people delve further into the format. It's very loosely sketched, loosely drawn. So every conversation is an opportunity to basically develop.
Because if we were like audio only and we weren't being filmed as well, we could pretend we were actually on a rocket ship and like do that kind of put soundscape on it and all that, which would be fun. I'd be up for.
I have a very budget introductory sequence that I'm trying to work on at the moment of like flying through space. We've got a theme song now.
Oh, amazing.
But it's, as the budget goes up, and we'll have you back next series.
Okay.
Wherever you can pick us up.
And we can get dressed up as well.
We could. Well, I did ask people for permission to have like astronaut helmets.
Yeah.
But no one was really up for that. People thought it was a bit kitsch.
Okay.
But I thought it would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
You would have been up for that.
I would have been up for that.
I'm going to make a note of that.
I'm up for most things. When you read Big Man.
Which I can't wait.
If you read my memoir, you'll see I'm up for a lot. But anyway.
3rd of September for the door. It's very exciting. Well, we do a few little warm-up introductory questions just before we get on to the bulk of the episode, the bulk of your choices. But it's a good question to interrogate. Basically, we're preparing you pre-launch. We're about to pack you off aboard this tiny rocket ship. It's a very limited limited capacity rocket ship. It's very small, as you would have guessed or inferred by the fact you can only fit 7 books on it. But I like to ask a few little warm-up questions just to, because I think we've only met once before. So the process.
But I've seen you.
Yeah, we have seen you. We'll see each other again. Well, I want to come to all of your book launch events.
Amazing.
This is very exciting.
Yeah.
Can't wait. But this sometimes people view this as quite a philosophical question. It's not really intended to be. But how do you describe who you are and what you do?
I've kind of broadened it out or narrowed it down, depending on how you look at it, as a writer, because I began writing poetry, spoken word poetry, and then moved into novels, children's books, a memoir, and and I've also written plays. I've also written a film or co-written a screenplay for a film that won the BAFTA. So I just think writer encapsulates all of that. And then the offshoots from my writing is I do a lot of workshops in schools, creative writing workshops, and I do commissioned writing as well, and I mentor people, and but it's all around writing and self-expression and sometimes performance, but it's mostly about the word on the page, and then that word may be put into a book, that word may go into be performed on stage or turned into screen, but for me, writer. And I think as a writer I also feel myself to be a witness, so I do from time to time write about current affairs, things that are going on in the news or around me. And that I feel is a form of kind of like bearing witness to our times, putting it on record for that to be remembered, and maybe even a rallying cry for change. But often, that's just, I don't know, wishful thinking.
Yeah, that's interesting. So do you always, when you sit down to write a poem or a novel, as the case is with Big Man, how motivated are you by that kind of bearing witness? Is that always at the front of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up when LGBT books could not be shared in schools. So there was a law called Section 28 from 1988 to 2003, the whole time I was at primary and secondary school. So there would have been no LGBT books in my schools. Teachers weren't allowed to say it was okay to be gay. So for me, writing queer stories is really important, and Black queer stories, because I never saw myself in books. And so that is something I, proactively go about doing, writing Black queer characters, whether it's for children or adults. That's kind of what you're going to get from me. And I'm really happy with that. Like, some people have advised me, don't get boxed in, but I'm like, it's a big box to explore, and it's underexplored and underrepresented. And so until, we are equally represented in all forms of media, I think it's a good thing for me to be writing Black queer stories.
Yeah, 100% agree. So did you feel the feedback from when you first started writing and publishing? Was that encouraging from the beginning, or have you sort of found yourself a circle of friends and writers who...
I mean, the encouragement has been consistent. Like, my mum has always encouraged me, whether or not it made me any money. She was seeing how happy it made me to perform my poetry and then to, publish and go into schools and do all of that work. So she always encouraged me to do what made me happy, and writing and performing and teaching workshops has always made me happy. So in terms of publishing my first book, Benjamin Zephaniah was a mentor of mine, and I would share my poetry with him from quite early. And he, after I'd shared a lot of poems with him, he's like, you have enough for a book. And he kind of helped me with that process. He looked at my contract, he looked at my manuscript, he gave me an endorsement for the front cover, and sent me on my way. But was always there to, I could check in with him about anything really. And that was really wonderful to have someone have that vote of confidence in you, someone so great and amazing. I thought about, bringing one of Benjamin's books today, but actually it was not his books that inspired me. It was live performance, and it was him as a person that really inspired me. And I couldn't pick a book to represent that, but I've got to mention him now. So
yeah, great stuff. What an amazing man, amazing character. I actually met him when I was 10 years old.
Oh wow!
Because I went to where he was. I think he was doing a reading or a performance, and then he did a talk. I went to queue up and get my book signed by him, and he was just... I remember, because obviously you know him, but he was such a warm, incredible energy of and I was a really nervous little kid, so I remember queuing up to get my book signed, and just straight away I remember massive smile and really welcoming. That must have been really beautiful to work with him.
And I had that feeling when I met him. I wasn't 10, I was in my early 20s, but he had no idea who I was. I went up to him. I had some of my poems burned onto a CD that I'd kind of burnt at home. And I said, these are my poems. I would like you to listen to them. And he was like, okay, I will. And I was like, my contact details are here. Tell me what you think. And he did. And that's what started our relationship. Just me being bold, going up to him, handing him a CD and saying, please tell me what you think. And he did. And he never, he never left me on red. He always replied to any message I sent him. And that was really special, because how busy someone like that is and how much he has going on. And it's just, really, really made me think about that generosity that you can offer when people reach out to you, just kind of being responsive and being encouraging, But his example was one that's, really stayed with me. And I really cherish having had that relationship with him.
Yeah, that's very beautiful. Oh my God, what a wonderful man. Incredible to bring him in. And that's what, even there, not in the pics, but getting a shout out. That's what it's all about. So we'll move on, Dean, if you're happy, to the quickfire book questions. Just a bit of a warmer. You're playing with calling this part of the show Rocket Fuel, potentially. Okay. No, what do you think of that? We could potentially workshop it. I'll ask you for feedback after the show. But the first question is, who do you think is the most overrated writer ever of all time?
Could it be Shakespeare? It's just I love some Shakespeare, but I'm it's our national identity. It's it's so much that I'm just sometimes tired of it. I'm when I'm invited to see another Shakespeare production, or even I had one of my poems used at the Globe in As You Like It. They kind of revamped As You Like It, and they wanted to put some contemporary writing in there. So they put one of my poems on Days When in that show. And I'm so if you need to update Shakespeare with me, maybe Shakespeare's out of date. Do you know what I mean? I'm just kind of maybe we just put my play on at the Globe. So I just kind of think if we have to revamp it, queer it, have an all-women cast, have a Black cast, have a this, have a that, I'm just kind of but there are women writers, queer writers, black writers that have plays ready to be staged? Do we have to keep revamping Shakespeare? So I think, yeah, in a way, yeah, overrated or kind of just overplayed, you know, like if you love an album, but you've played it on repeat and you just need a break from it because you just like worn it out and you just don't love it the same way. Maybe that's me with Shakespeare, because I did grow up loving Shakespeare and, you know, and struggling with some of it and the language, but eventually grappling with it and getting it. But now I'm just like, okay, come on, there's more to life, you know?
Yeah. I really agree with that it's taken on an almost religious aspect, or like the nationalistic side of it as well. I was thinking about this the other day with like his birthday being apparently the 23rd of April, but I don't know that it is the 23rd of April. And it's kind of been engineered because it's St. George's Day as well. There were people want to believe that his birthday is that day, but we don't.
Just for patriotism.
Yeah. His birth is a boring historical fact that I include on my tours. But his birth was registered on the 26th of April. So everyone likes to think I was definitely born 3 days before.
But some people do have a couple birthdays. My granddad had 2 birthdays, and I don't know what that was about.
Oh, the king, the queen. Your granddad is a king? Or...
I mean, his name was George.
Already coming
His
up.
saint was St. George, because he's Greek Orthodox.
Everything is knitting together.
Yeah, you all have a saint if you're in the Greek Orthodox Church. So his saint was obviously St. George. But yeah. So I've written about St. George. I think he's an interesting saint because his heritage is many places, you know, Palestinian, we think. So interesting. But yes, Shakespeare's my answer.
Okay. So you heard it from Dean Atta, the most overrated writer ever, William Shakespeare.
Will I get hate mail? Do you?
I think this is a great opinion to have. I back the opinion. I'm not sure. I think it's a very good opinion. Everyone has kind of towed the line so far. We don't want to insult our previous guests. They were all very lovely as well. But Shakespeare, no one's picked Shakespeare.
Okay.
So moving on to the second of our quickfire book questions. It's the book that you pretend to have read. Is there a book that you pretend to?
Yeah, for a long time I pretended to have read like Maya Angelou's autobiographies because I knew what they were about and I knew her poetry, and my mum had the autobiography collection, and so I pretended to have read the first one. I know what the cage birds sing, but I've never read them. Like, I've still not read them, and I don't know if I ever will, but I love Maya Angelou's poetry, and I just think if your life story needs so many volumes, I don't know if I have the time. Maybe one day.
You got your own life to live.
I'll get an audiobook of it, but it's just intimidating that they have so many volumes of this collection of her autobiographies that I just kind of couldn't get started, because it's like, you know, when you see a TV series and you know there's like 6 or 8 seasons of it, it's like, when am I going to have time? You're grateful to yourself when you do make the time. Like, I took ages to watch The Wire. When I watched The Wire, oh my God, like best 60 hours of my life. And I would do that again, but I'm just waiting for it to kind of like settle before I can find and justify that time spent on it again. Yeah, with Maya Angelou, it's kind of like that. How long will it take me? I'm also dyslexic, so I'm quite a slow reader. So I do prefer audiobooks. So maybe I'll just get the audiobooks.
Yeah. This is kind of an adjacent question to that, but do you feel that comes through in your writing and that you go kind of by the sound and the sort of lyrical texture of the writing?
I write for, you know, especially my poetry and my verse novels, for it to be read aloud. And I do my own audiobooks mostly. So I write reading it aloud as I'm writing it as well. So it needs to feel like it's in my voice and that I'm not just using words to be clever. And then when it comes to it, I don't even know how to pronounce the word. Or it just doesn't flow, you know, or kind of like fall off the tongue naturally. So yeah, I try and use my natural voice in my writing. Obviously, like, your voice and your vocabulary expands over time. So like, you know, if you look at my early work and my, you know, more up-to-date work, you will see a shift in kind of like my vocab and like what, you know, the words I'll use. But in general, it sounds like this. Yeah.
I think that's very beautiful, basically. Right, and that does jump off the page. And when I have heard you read in the past and perform, you can tell it's kind of written to be read to people and kind of shared in that sense as well. It's like the oral storytelling tradition, I guess, what we're talking about. Well, that's another great choice. So moving on to the third of our 4 quickfire questions, which, as you can see, they end up not being very quickfire at all.
That's me.
But, no, it's definitely a shared. I think it's great. But this one we call the astral dinner. So basically, on the rocket ship, you're sailing further out into constellations. You're allowed to invite a writer, poet, who it could be alive or dead, but they will be brought back to life for the purposes of dinner. You can invite them to have dinner with you on the rocket ship for one evening.
Yes.
Who would you invite and why would you invite them?
It would be Zadie Smith. she's very much alive. And, so this could very much happen, Zadie, if you're listening. I've met Zadie Smith's mum, but I've not tried to get an invite to dinner. And I've also taught workshops at the school where she went, Hampstead School, in Kilburn. And she, to me, was a writer. When I read, Northwest and White Teeth and On Beauty and all of those books, I was just like blown away, particularly NW, because my grandparents are from Northwest London, so I spent a lot of time there, and the detail, like the textures, everything of Northwest London is just perfect. And you seeing somewhere you grew up be immortalized in a book is really, really special. So I think I would like to have dinner with her just to see what she's like, because I've seen her give talks, and obviously I've watched in person, and I've watched interviews, and I've read her work, but I just want to know, what is she like one-to-one when she's not performing and posturing? Because I feel like she has a lot of opinions, like, because she writes essays as well, and but I don't know if that's like not performative, but like, I just want to know what it's like to talk to her, one-to-one as a person, not like what she's projecting to the world or to an audience on a stage. So yeah, I'm just curious of what she's like, because I really love her writing, and I'm just, I want to know the person, underneath that greatness.
That's a fantastic answer. Well, I think it would be an interesting setting in which to have a dinner and a conversation.
On a rocket ship,
in this tiny rocket ship.
Yeah.
Again, we need to expand the format on this point, but I think we can have a little dining table.
Yeah.
Maybe you can choose what you guys have for dinner. I don't know. We'll give you, because normally the concept is you don't really get a great food supply.
Okay.
As either standard astronaut food.
Okay.
Like the little pouches and stuff. But for this one,
can you get jerk chicken in a pouch?
I think
and rice and peas in a pouch.
For your dinner with Zadie Smith,
plantain in a pouch.
Yeah, why not? Yeah. All of this, 100%. Okay. You're allowed all of this. Don't worry, Dean. Yeah.
Jamaican rocket fuel.
100%.
Lots of Scotch bonnet. That will give us extra.
This is going to be a great dinner. So we're on to the fourth and final quickfire book question. This is the literary comet. Do you have, basically you could send back a literary opinion that everyone might hate you for? You're going scorched earth.
Yeah.
Basically because you're not going to be around on earth anymore to deal with the fallout.
Yeah.
So do you have a very controversial book opinion or literary opinion?
I do. Yeah. And I've kind of had this opinion for a while, and I know like people won't like this opinion, because I think it's not mentoring if you're being paid for it. And a lot of people, have a mentor or mentor people, and but it's an exchange of money. Like, so it's a service. It's more like coaching or kind of like being a kind of editor. And I actually think mentoring is a decision made, between two people that is nothing to do with money. And it's about kind of, you're going to be there for them, and, that you're going to hold them accountable, but also like gently guide them. But also you're not doing it for any personal gain. You're doing it because you see something in them that you want to nurture. Maybe you see something of yourself in them, or maybe you just see that they are, their potential, and you want to just help it come to light. But if you're being paid, I just think it's a completely different thing. And I don't think it should be called mentoring. And I think we need another word for that, which I think is coaching or editing. I don't think mentoring is a paid thing. I think mentoring is a choice, and it's a relationship that's really sacred. And I've had some amazing mentors. I've mentioned Benjamin Zephaniah, but also Peter Kahn, when I was part of the Spoken Word Educators Program, was my mentor on that, but also has continued to mentor me to this day. Will check in with me, meet up, and really it's just rooting for me. And I think that's partly what a mentor is, and it's not someone who you pay to look at your poems give you some steering in the right direction. I just think that's not mentoring. That's something else.
I agree with you. So you think that people would judge that opinion, or a lot of people?
Because there's a ton of people that are paying someone to mentor them, and they really are like, they are my mentor. I'm like, they're someone you're paying to attach their name to you as to give you extra kudos, or they are, or when people are, I have all these mentees, like they kind of sound really selfless, but they're being paid by a ton of people to
making
their work.
Bank.
They're making a lot of money, and
bought a house.
I could, offer that service. I've kind of toyed with that, and I just don't think it works for me. And I've had a mentor the past year, and it's been amazing, kind of doing that voluntarily and doing it with this generosity of spirit that's just felt completely different to all of my paid work. It's felt so, and I mean, this is a shameless plug, but they actually like nominated me for Mentor of the Year for the charities. So I won Mentor of the Year. So it's an LGBT charity called Just Like Us, and they pair people with mentees and mentors, and I was just blessed with an amazing Black queer writer who's just phenomenal and is going to be huge when we're ready to get the work out there. But it's just been really lovely seeing someone grow and in confidence and their writing ability and just like, and their ability to network and do all the things you need to do as a writer, because it's not just the writing. Writing is one part of it, but getting out there, having the confidence, you know, making the connections and following up, like that's a big part. And dealing with rejection, which we have so much of. So yeah, there's so many skills to being a writer that I'm really glad I can pass some of that on to someone. But yeah, if I was being paid, I just think that would have been something else.
Yeah. I agree with you. I agree with what you said. But I'm intrigued to see that if there is a group of people who like vehemently disagree with that, then
right in.
I would be intrigued. I am intrigued. Please, we should invite this. We've got to take the photo. Encourage healthy debate. We're not trying to be deliberately provocative, but no, I like that. I think that's really good, and it's very beautiful that you've gained so much from being mentored by these amazing people, and then are now passing that on. That feels like a very beautiful thing to be a part of.
No, it is.
And congratulations on the prize. It's amazing. It's not a shameless plug. You should have said that. I made it. You should have asked why I didn't include that in your bio at the beginning.
I don't think I sent it to you.
Insane. I'm an award winner on this as well. So this is why the quick 5 book questions take so long, because I always end up asking more questions. So I think we need to come on to your 5 choices, your first 5 choices, Dean. Do you want to tell us what your first choices of books that you're taking on a rocket ship?
Yes. As anyone watching can see, there's more than 5 books in this pile, but I've got some decisions to make between what I'm going to pick up. But the top one is clear. So it's The Rose That Grew From Concrete by Tupac Shakur. So I grew up, listening to hip hop, listening to both Tupac and Biggie and lots of other rappers. And I was really touched when I saw that Tupac had done a book of poetry, because I hadn't seen this side of him. Like I'd heard the poem, I'd heard the song Dear Mama. So I knew he had like some softness and some kind of like, like his feelings for his mum were clear. But otherwise he spoke really like quite, he was quite misogynistic in his raps, and you didn't get a sense of his vulnerability very often. So when you started reading through this book, I really saw a different side to someone who just looked like this tough guy. And I know actually Tupac is, many things. He was an actor before he even became a rapper, and then, he continued acting. So you could see there was a versatility to him. And some people might think he was never actually a real gangster either. But for me, this book kind of bridged something, my love of hip hop with my kind of love of poetry, and seeing someone that was like a big hip hop artist, like had written these poems, whether he intended them to be collated in a book at the time or not, because you get to see his handwritten notes, really which makes it extra really beautiful. You get to see the actual poems written by his own hand, and then them nicely typed up as well, which makes it feel just super special. I mean, I'd hate if someone found my journals of unpublished poems and put them together like this, but luckily I've put enough into the world that no one needs to dig into my archive. But yeah, it's just a really special book, and I thought he was a special guy. Like, I didn't agree with everything he said, and I don't think he would have necessarily been my mate. I don't think I'd have brought him on the rocket ship. I don't know if we'd have got on.
Brought him on the
I mean, probably not. But this book for me, especially in my early days of writing spoken word poetry, before I kind of came across Gil Scott-Heron or Ursula Rucker or many other people that did amazing spoken word, and all the people here in the UK, like I think this book, because my mum got it for me, was really special. And this is number one choice, because it was that bridge between loving hip hop and kind of like getting into poetry via spoken word.
Yeah. So what came first? The hip hop came first, or the poetry came?
Yeah, hip hop was just there. Like, it's kind of, you just grow up with it. So like, I think I'm a failed rapper, like, because a lot of my early poems I'd write to instrumentals and intend to maybe one day go into studio and record it with someone, but I never did that, and I forgot what instrumental these were written to. So I had all these books of, you know, raps that actually I didn't know, and so then like I didn't know what music they went to anymore, and I was like, oh, maybe they're poems. And then I kind of more formally set about writing poems, and that kind of trajectory just continued. And when I came across spoken word, you know, more on like YouTube before I actually went to any live events, then I was like, okay, this is something I could do. And but I really liked hip hop, but I kind of thought because of the homophobia in the language, you know, I just thought there was no place for me in hip hop, or even like garage, or, you know, what was going on when I was younger, you know, in the UK music scene. I just thought even there, I didn't see anyone who was gay, who was successful and, you know, like, or out and gay, you know, and successful, because maybe there's quite a few that we'll find out about, or that people know about as an open secret in the hip hop community that are gay, but no one openly gay and proud at the time. You know, we're talking about the 90s, early 2000s. So for me, it wasn't plausible to be a hip hop artist, and so I didn't really try. But poetry felt like it was open to everyone, and especially when I started going to London, like poetry events, like there's just anyone and everyone there, like all ages, you know, class, you know, ethnicity, sexuality. Like I quickly kind of stumbled across lots of like queer poetry nights as well as black poetry nights, and and I just found that there was space for all of me in all of these spaces, like, and I could be gay in the black spaces, and I could be queer I could be black in the queer spaces, even if I was the only one, you know, that was both black and gay. Like, and often if I was like the youngest one, I really liked that kind of respect that older people showed me for like getting up on stage and sharing something. You know, I found that as a young person, it was really incredible to have a voice and have that be listened to. There wasn't much space for that in school, but there definitely was space in the kind of the poetry and spoken word scene.
So I mean, it's probably a bit of a trite way to describe something, but you would describe it as life-changing, presumably discovering that space.
Yes, absolutely.
And there was a space for you that you felt fully able to be yourself. And
yes, 100%.
Did that ever make you, well, this is a slightly different question, but did it ever make you question your love of hip-hop, that sometimes do you ever think is not really a space for me because of your...
I mean, it depends. Like, I also loved like Jamaican bashment and dancehall, and like I loved it to dance to, but like I wouldn't like sometimes when you caught what some of the lyrics were and it was very homophobic as well, like I would be like, oh, should I be in this space? But often what really did it for me was like finding the queer spaces that still would play the hip hop and the dancehall, and like, you know, these black queer spaces where they were almost like reclaiming it, or saying, you know, we like, I don't know, it's still ours, like, or we're gonna just like be gay to it, like, so they're gonna be saying something homophobic and we're gonna be dancing with another man, like, and so, you know, go figure. Like, and I think that was part of it too, like, and so for me it was like the spaces where, you know, queer people would still play that music, and, you know, it's a bit of a like a weird kind of what's the word? It's not dissociation, but it is like, I think it's reclamation of these things. But obviously, you know, if anyone knows my work, like reclaimed words is something I kind of looked at, you know, with the N word as well. Like, and I wasn't up for reclaiming the N word. However, like when a gay person like calls another gay person a faggot or whatever, I get it. Like, you know, so, and, you know, even the word queer has been reclaimed or changed meaning over time, because there's older people who were queer bashed and who hate the word queer because that's the word that was used to abuse them. And now people quite comfortably call themselves queer of my generation and younger, because we didn't experience queer bashing in that way. And, you know, actually queer is this umbrella word for us. And so, yeah, I think it does, words change, and also, you know, they don't sting as much if you are not in a place of kind of insecurity. Once you find yourself feeling secure in the community, and, you know, that song isn't going to hurt you as much because you're not hiding from who you are, and you're not thinking everyone here thinks I'm that thing that needs to be killed, which a lot of the Jamaican dancehall music was saying about gay men. Like, but when you're playing that same song in a room full of queer and gay people and trans people, then it's something different. Like, and yeah, it's hard to explain. You just got to be there.
Yeah, it does feel like quite a powerful moment of reclamation or reappropriation in a way.
Yeah.
Reappropriation. Yeah, that's quite a beautiful thing. I love it. Oh, what a fantastic first choice.
There we go.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love it.
Put him down here.
So we'll move on to your second choice, Dean. What do you got for us?
So, an amazing gay poet, Andrew Macmillan. I've brought with me 3 of his books, Physical, Pandemonium, and Playtime. But I'm actually going to go with the first one, because when I first read Andrew Macmillan and heard him read, I was just blown away by, especially Physical, like just how unashamed it was, how very gay it was, how very just like it let you into these experiences that like you didn't know you were allowed to put in poetry, almost like the poem Urination, about like holding another man's penis while he pisses. Like it's just incredible. And I'd done that before, but I never thought that was poem worthy, or I was like, if I wrote that, who would want to read that? Do you know what I mean? And I just think once he'd done it, like it just gave me so much freedom to think about, okay, what else could you write, Dean? Like, you don't need to censor yourself. Like, The Men Are Weeping at the Gym is another one that like unpacking masculinity. And I think I do that in my work now, but it wasn't something I was kind of doing before kind of reading books like this. And also I think Soho by Richard Scott also really blew me away. So yeah, I think reading this book by Andrew Macmillan and just his presence, and like his presence not just like on the fringes, like really in the establishment, like really in the center of poetry and winning prizes and being published by Cape, and like, you know, being celebrated in the way that he is, kind of shows me that no, I'm not too queer or too sexual or too anything. Like, I've just got to write it well. I think essentially, if you write it well, like, you know, it becomes undeniable. And I think that's what made me really kind of like focus on craft. Like, you know, if I can craft these poems about these kind of these queer experiences or these kind of like Black experiences, but like they're crafted really well, like you can make yourself and your work kind of undeniable. And I think that's something that Andrew Macmillan's Physical.
Yeah. I love that. That's a great book on that, developing your own craft as well. So how, on that general point, how important to you as a writer and a poet is reading the work of other poets? Like, it feels, I'm asking this question because I've met a few writers in recent times who don't read a huge amount, which always kind of surprises me. Yeah. So I'm just interested, because to me it seems fundamental and like an integral part of being a working writer and developing your craft as a
I mean, I love reading poetry, and I read a lot of poetry, and I love going to poetry workshops by people whose poetry I really have connected with. So like kind of getting an insight into their process, how they work, you know, what they're reading, you know, that's really interesting. So like your favorite poet gives a workshop, then go to that and see what they recommend, because that's probably what they're reading. So I've been to Andrew's workshops, I've been to Joelle Taylor's workshops, you know, and they've really given me great insights into kind of what they, you know, what they read, how they approach creating a poem, like what their craft and process is. So that has been really, really important to me. And that's a big thing. I go on writing retreats a lot. I've really loved going on retreats like tutored by Caroline Bird, like she's amazing. Like, so yeah, and like I've been part of a couple of writing groups. So for a long time, I was part of Malika's Poetry Kitchen, and I love Malika's writing, and I love Kitchen as a space, and the kind of the focus on craft, and that was really great because in the sessions, Malika would lead some, but we would also take turns leading sessions. So we would bring in individual poems. And so like, I love that. You're not always reading a whole collection, but you're reading an amazing poem that someone has brought in and said, look at this, let's unpack it. Let's discuss it. Why does this work? What's so good about this? What can we learn from this? And I love that, taking it, you know, poem by poem, like, and so that's been really fun. And then if you love, you know, that particular poem, you might seek out, you know, more of their work. And and that's it. Like when poets visit from the States as well, I try and go to their workshops. So like going to Sam Sachs' workshop was amazing, and going, you know, and meeting Danez Smith, and like someone who I just really admire, who think is amazing. And I've been to workshops by Kwame Dawes, and his work is incredible, and like his insights as an editor are really valuable. And so that's it. I love reading, and I've just got really good friends who are poets as well. You know, I'm really good friends with like Raymond Antrobus and Keith Jarrett. So like they are really like, they always know what to read. Like they've read tons. Like Ray is judging the Booker Prize at the moment. He's read everything.
It's not a great WhatsApp group to be part of.
And I mean, Keith, you know, he's got PhD and he teaches creative writing at 2 universities now. And so like he's really great for insights into what to be reading, but also as an editor. So like, I think, and that's what anyone who wants to be a writer, like get into a writing workshop or do a writing masters or form your own writing group, just have other writers around you. So not just for the editing and feedback, but also so they can recommend books to you, because there's so many books. Like I love the poetry library, because then, you know, you can't afford to buy all these books, like so you can borrow them from the library. The librarians are really knowledgeable there, so they can recommend things for you. And you know, there's poetry libraries now around the UK. So there's one in Manchester Poetry Library, and then there's the National Poetry Centre in Leeds. I don't know if it's open yet, but it's kind of coming soon.
Oh, cool.
And then there's Scottish Poetry Library. So like, and so there's poetry libraries kind of probably where you are, and also they do like books in the mail, so you can actually sign up and then get the book sent to you, so you don't have to physically be there. So I think with poetry there's so much out there that it's hard to know where to start. So having friends recommend books to you and meeting other poets, going to live events, readings and workshops means you get exposed to, you know, the best of the best usually, and that's really, really fun. And then when the discourse happens, you know what everyone's talking about, because there's always discourse around poetry.
You got to keep abreast of it.
Yeah, I don't actually chime in, but I do watch and chuckle.
And popcorn would. Fantastic second choice, Dean. So I think we'll move on to your third choice. If you're whistling through your 5.
I know, right? So The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. So this is a novel in verse, and it's stunning. Like, so novels in verse are basically stories told through poems. So like, it's a series of poems that tell you a story, and this story is about a young teenage Dominican American girl living in New York, and her very religious and strict family, and it was just really eye-opening, kind of seeing firstly like into the kind of a girl's experience of teenagehood, like, because I hadn't actually read many teen YA books, like that wasn't something I sought out, but also obviously the form of it being a novel in verse, which my first novel in verse, The Black Flamingo, very much like borrows form from this, because it was just so well structured, like in terms of like kind of how it introduces the character, how it gets straight into the story, and the momentum it has, and kind of like how it skips ahead to just the most juicy bits of the story. You know, there's no filler, all killer, no filler. And it's first person, present tense, always kind of like with the character, and that's what I do in Black Flamingo, and all my novels in verse. And so Elizabeth Acevedo, like this book kind of just was my blueprint to write a novel in verse. I've read others, like by Sarah Crossan and Kwame Alexander and Jason Reynolds. But this one was the starting point for me to really kind of get into this form. And I actually did an event with Elizabeth at the Edinburgh International Book Festival when, Poet X had been out about a year already, and then my book Black Flamingo had just come out, and I told her like your book was kind of my blueprint, and she was like, I could tell. Because she got sent the proof, and but she's been really great. She's championed my book and kind of put it on recommended reading lists, and done shout outs for it quite often, and so this book kind of changed the trajectory of my career, really. Writing a novel in verse was not something I knew I was going to do until really my agent and an editor kind of recommended I do so and handed me this book. And then I was like, perfect. Because Black Flamingo at first was just some poems.
Yeah.
And then I say just some poems.
Yeah. It's very dismissive of you.
I know. But yeah, it was going to be a poetry collection. Okay. And then this idea of it being a novel in verse and for teenagers just meant I just totally reformed it and I found the story and kind of added, what wasn't there already, and kind of put it together almost like a jigsaw puzzle. And when it was done, and it's a glorious book that's kind of really stood the test of time. Like I go into schools now, you go into an English office and there's 200 copies because they study it at year 9.
Yeah,
like
incredible.
It's mad. And I'm already kind of just having really fond feelings about that book, because it really kind of changed the course of my career and brought me a more livable income, because I think before I was really scraping by living with my mom and not really knowing how I was going to make it to the next month. And when Black Flamingo came along, the school visits kind of went up in frequency, and the book sales and the royalties came in, and I actually was like, oh, you can live as a writer. And
that must have been an incredible moment. Realization, and almost like self-actualization. You've been doing all this work for a period of many years.
And it was weird because I had done a lot of work in schools, but I'd never written with teenagers in mind. I just wrote what I wanted to write, and then just took whatever was appropriate into schools. I didn't necessarily think what would be this kind of teachable, book that could really add value to a curriculum and to a classroom environment. But when I sat down to, work on turning Black Flamingo into a verse novel for teens, I thought about what was I missing when I was a teenager, when there were no queer books and no books with Black people on the front cover, and what did I need to be told? What did I need to see and kind of feel affirmed? And so that's what I kind of put into that book. And I feel she did something similar, putting her book together for the intended reader of her book. And I think this book could be read by anyone, the Poet X, and I think you'll get real insight and empathy for this kind of experience that she puts across so beautifully.
It's really lovely that. And all of these choices so far are fantastic in terms of tracing your journey as a writer and a person.
That was the brief.
Wow, yeah. Oh my God, the brief is incredible. Oh, they're complimenting my brief. I appreciate it. But do you think as you kind of sail further into the constellations, these books will bring you a comfort or kind of connection with the past? Or what do you think?
I just think they're so well written. In particular, the Poet X and Physical, I think are just so well written. I think, I love Tupac Shakur's The Rose That Grew from Concrete, because I just think it's adorable. I just think it's like when I look back at my first poetry collection or my early writing, I just feel really fond. And I just think, everyone should try writing. I just think, everyone has a story to tell.
But we'll move on to your penultimate choice of your 5.
Oh my God.
There's this another one where you're going to have to pick this is on the spot. Deciding.
I'm gonna go for these because
great,
so I've got 3 James Baldwin novels here, his first 3 novels. So I've got Go Tell It on the Mountain, Giovanni's Room, and Another Country. And I think they're all incredible, but the one I'm going to pick is Giovanni's Room.
Uh-huh.
And I think Giovanni's Room is a lot of people's pick, but like, I pick it because firstly, I was really shocked. I started reading this book having already read Go Tell It on the Mountain.
Uh-huh.
Like, I'm thinking James Baldwin wrote exclusively about Black people.
Yeah.
The characters in Giovanni's Room, the main characters are both white. And I was like, what? Like, so I started reading it and I was like, wait, what? Are these guys white? Like, and I had to go and read something about the book. And then, yes, they are. And I'm like, why has he done that? Like, and it made me think about, you know, myself and, you know, my kind of almost commitment to write Black characters. And like, that is kind of because I feel like that is still underrepresented. But just then his almost audacity to write these white guys and just, but then I also realized, well, we live, you know, if he grew up in, you know, America, then moved to Paris, I've grown up, you know, in the UK, and we know white people. They're all around us. We know white culture, society, like, and so I could very easily write very compelling white characters. It's just that I don't want to.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have white characters in my stories, but they're never the main character. And so, but that was really interesting to see. Actually, maybe one day there will be a book where the main character's white because, you know, actually I'm mixed race. So, you know, my mum is white. Like, so there's nothing to say I couldn't. And, you know, or shouldn't, but I just haven't wanted to. But this book really, for me, is more about the relationship, the desperation of the relationship between these two guys, to the point where there's a point in the book you think they're going to beat each other to death with bricks. Like, they're pulling apart the room. Have you read it? Yeah, they're pulling apart the room. Yeah. And like, you know, they're both holding a brick and you think, okay, they're going to bludgeon each other, because that's what it feels like sometimes. I've been in a relationship for 8 years and like, you know, I wouldn't put it past me. Like, there's the murderous impulse that you can sometimes feel for the person you love.
The passion.
The most.
Emotion,
the passion. I am a Scorpio as well, so that might be part of it. But like, I don't know. I find Baldwin, you know, always relevant, you know, right now. Always relevant. And I actually didn't come to the books till kind of my 30s. So like, I didn't read him when I was in my 20s, or, you know, no one told me about Baldwin. Like, it was a name. He was a name I knew about, even when, you know, like I had written my poem, I Am Nobody's Nigger. Like, people were like, oh, after Baldwin's I'm Not Your Negro. And I was like, sure. Like, so that's another one maybe.
I made that assumption as well.
Yeah, I pretended to have read about. Like, so that I had to remedy and read more Baldwin. But yeah, the novels are more compelling to me than the essays. I do like the essays. I do watch his interviews. I kind of took the idea of, you know, being a witness, you know, from what Baldwin writes about as well, like the role of the writer as witness. But yeah, I just love this book and I could read it again and again. And, you know, I've written a novel that is about kind of a really kind of like a really intense relationship that kind of like at points you think will they stay together? Will they, you know, destroy one another? And and I think that's kind of really influenced in part by Giovanni's Room. And if I can see myself as a kind of a son of Baldwin, as many people see themselves, like Black queer writers will kind of like see themselves that way, I would definitely, you know, see him as someone who's been like a kind of more recent guiding light. Because like I said, I didn't read him in my 20s, but I got to him finally in my 30s. Yeah.
Do you think there's a different power to discovering a writer, not later in your life, because 30s is not necessarily late in your life, but coming to them when you're maybe a bit more mature as a writer and a thinker?
I mean,
there's a different power to that.
I might have been bolder sooner. Like, you know, like, because obviously, you know, Andrew Macmillan is a contemporary of mine, but his work made me feel bolder reading it. But we're writing at the same time. Baldwin was always there. If someone had given me Baldwin like earlier, like when I was at uni, even, like, you know, he wasn't on my curriculum. I did English and philosophy at uni, but like, you know, he wasn't on my English curriculum. Like Salman Rushdie was, and J.M. Coetzee, and like, but like, no Baldwin. And if someone had given me Baldwin as a teenager, my God. Like, I would have been much more empowered. Like, I think the same with like Audre Lorde, Bell Hooks. Like, I didn't get to any of that till my 30s. And I think had I read these books earlier, I would have felt a lot more sure of myself, a lot more kind of confident that, like, the world was ready because, this has been happening already. Baldwin's books have been out there, so nothing I was going to say was going to be that radical.
Yeah.
And so maybe I would have been more radical if I'd read them earlier.
Yes, interesting. Is it tricky picking that one above the other two that you brought with you today? Or?
I mean, the kind of formally, I think Go Tell It on the Mountain is brilliant because it dips into the minds of several characters in a family, and you get to see a story in a kaleidoscopic way, which I think is brilliant. And I've never quite mastered writing that way. Like I've wanted to, I've tried to, and my editors were like, no, pick one character, make them the protagonist. That's it, thank you. I won't tell you which book I tried to do that with, but I have tried.
I can't see that early draft.
And then another country, I really like how broad and sweeping it is, and like how many places and kind of like characters and time frames it takes in, and it's just a brilliant book. And I would love to see these as films, but I think so far it's been If Beale Street Could Talk has been made into a film, but I don't think any of Baldwin's other books have made it onto the screen. I don't think for lack of trying, and having now worked in film, I see how film development works, and it takes a long time to get anything off the ground. So I'm sure many people have tried with all of Baldwin's books. So it's probably a miracle that If Beale Street Could Talk got made.
That one, yeah. I guess you must have a bit like special insights into that, given your
some insights, but like it's almost off-putting. The more you know, the harder you realize how hard it is to get anything made. And so like this, Two Black Boys in Paradise, we made because I don't think anyone knew we couldn't. Like, no one thought it was, impossible. So we just kind of went ahead as if this was perfectly plausible that we would make this film that would win awards. And so BAFTA, so it was just kind of like sheer naivete, I think, on everyone's part that we pulled it off, and hard work, and kind of like goodwill for all the people that gave us lots of in-kind support, because the film had a budget and the amount of work that went into it is way over what the budget was. Do you know what I mean? But that's because people worked overtime and volunteered and, gave in-kind support on top of everyone that got paid properly. So it was just like, a big thing to pull off. And that's a 9-minute short film. So, making a feature film, like, gosh, wow. Like how people do that.
Amazing. Or one day when there's a film adaptation of your, maybe a Big Man.
Big Man, yeah.
A film adaptation.
I'd love to see Big Man made into a film. I'd also love to see my book, The Black Flamingo, on screen and on stage. I've got some ideas for that for a musical. I want to adapt for more of my work because I just think it's been really incredible to see how much of a wider audience you can reach when you put something on the screen. I want to do that.
Oh my God, you heard it here first. Film adaptation. Well, we'll move on, Dean, to your final choice then. If you have to move on to the fifth and final choice.
So I have I'm a Fan by Sheena Patel, and I am a fan of this book and of Sheena, and I made sure to go see her talk about this book at several festivals. So I saw her at Prima Donna Festival, I saw her at Edinburgh International Book Festival, and I really appreciated the insights I've got from she wrote this book thinking she could possibly get cancelled when it got published. She was just throwing everything at it, not pulling any punches. It was originally published by Rough Trade Books, and then the paperback came out with Granta. But with Rough Trade, she was just being super experimental, really trying everything, and kind of letting her editor kind of rein her in a bit, if things were, but just kind of helping her shape this really unapologetic, kind of unlikable protagonist, kind of just being awful. And I just really love that because I think I have tried really hard in my books, today, up until Big Man, which, once I read I'm a Fan, it gave me a lot of permission for my novel, Big Man. But reading I'm a Fan, I really thought to myself, I always try and make the reader really love my protagonist because I want, I'm really invested in showing the humanity of Black people and queer people, especially almost more so to the straight white reader so that they kind of like see us and understand us and feel empathy for us and treat us better, you know. But actually, there's something to be said for writing a character that doesn't give a fuck and is just really disruptive and is really just like messy and just like making all the wrong choices.
Yeah.
Because like that's hilarious and that's fascinating and you can't turn away. It's like a car crash and like, but no one's actually getting hurt because it's fiction.
Yeah.
And so that is just like what I loved about this book. Like I thought this protagonist was just awful in the best ways. There were like mentions of, again, like kind of with Zadie Smith, she mentions parts of like Northwest London that I knew. And that just made me feel really like giddy. I was like, oh, there, that's like, I know there. Like, and yeah, it just was, but it was also formally quite interesting. Like some of the chapters are tiny and some are longer. But like, it kind of like, is these snapshots and they just take you through a story that is a wild ride.
Yeah.
It would make a good film, but I don't know if that's in the works. But it was just so mad, like crazy in the best way. And lots of contemporary pop culture references, which I always worry about with my books because I'm like, oh, they're going to date. But then I'm like, actually, a book can be a time capsule.
Yeah.
And I love that. And so, yeah, with my novel book, Big Man, like I've put in a lot of contemporary pop culture references. I've put in like, you know, Big makes some choices that, you know, I don't think will be everyone's cup of tea. Like he is not trying to be liked. He's actually quite bitchy, but early readers have said that comes across as really funny. Like, and so they like, I love the humor. And I was like, oh, he was just being a bitch. Like, and so actually that depends on the way you choose to read a book. Like if you read it with like goodwill, like then you'll be like, oh, he's so funny. But I'm like, no, he's just like a Scorpio. And it's just like venomous. But yeah, it just kind of gave me a lot of permission, this book. And it's so slim as well. And it's just like, just blew me away. And again, like, I just think writers being brave, the fact that she thought, oh, I might get cancelled for this, like that level of like risk, I think is really cool. Like, and I don't think I'll be cancelled for Big Man because I think I tested the waters somewhat with my memoir. So Person Unlimited, that's like my real life story. It's right there.
Oh my
and
goodness.
It was there.
Wow,
we didn't even put it there.
Oh my goodness. Incredible, beautiful cover. You can buy a copy at Morocco Bound Bookshop if you'd like to.
But with that, with that book, I put some of the things I was most scared of sharing from my own life, and and there's been no like pushback, no kind of negative response. It's just been like a lot of empathy, a lot of sympathy, and a lot of people relating to it, you know, and being like, wow, like that is brave, that is, you know, like unconventional, that is like bold, and like, and that's just been really lovely that people think that, because I thought it was like, okay, people are going to never talk to me again. Like I lost one friend, like one person read this early draft and was like, if that's how you see me, like we can't be friends. And I had to remove her from the book. But with Big Man, you know, it's fiction. And so it's, you know, if anyone thinks they see themselves, you're so vain. You probably think this book is about you, right? So like I, you know, have taken some of my experiences, but mostly it's fiction in Big Man. And I really enjoy like just kind of taking everything to the limits, kind of beyond what I would have dared to do in my real life. But Big is, a bigger, bolder version of me, maybe.
That's really interesting. Oh, I can't wait to read it. September the 3rd.
September the 3rd.
It's very exciting. Well, Dean, 5 fantastic choices.
Thank you.
One final question, wrapping up that first main section of the show. If you were only allowed to take one book on the rocket ship, which one would you take of those 5 that you picked?
Ooh, I didn't know that was coming.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Hold on, let me hold them all again and look at them. Gosh. I think I would take Physical by Andrew McMillan because I find poetry the easiest thing to revisit, and I think you can read and reread a poem and discover new things every time. I think a novel, you know, tells you the story it wants you to get, and you get it. And you may go back and find details and textures, but you're not going to get the story again.
Yeah.
Whereas I think a poem, I think there's always something new to be found in a poem.
Yeah.
That's just been my experience of poetry. So Andrew, taking you with me on the rocket
Brilliant.
ship.
I love it. Fantastic. Wow. Fantastic. 5 choices. I know you are allowed to take all 5. But
Okay.
that's
fine.
just in the event that the rocket ship gets even smaller than it already is. But on to your final 2 choices, Dean. And obviously, we've talked about this. These are slightly different types.
Yes.
So the 6th book, the penultimate book you can take on the rocket ship with you is basically you get given the last surviving copy. And you get to throw it into the void because you hate it so much. You want to consign it to obscurity. What is the book you hate so much you want to condemn it to obscurity further?
So this book for me is like peak performative reading. I don't know how many 20-something dudes I've seen with this in a tote bag, and just so this is The Creative Act: A Way of Being by Rick Rubin, published by Canongate, who published my memoir.
Okay.
And so I got this for free.
Firing shot. There we go.
I got it for free because I was in the office and I was handed it. They said, "Oh, you'll enjoy this." I did not enjoy this. I did not enjoy this. And more than not enjoying it, I just found the hype for it was mad. And seeing everyone rave about it, it is platitudes. It doesn't, I took nothing from it but frustration and annoyance that it's so thick and so empty.
It's quite a self-important looking book.
It's great, and it would do some damage. I guess at 0 gravity, it wouldn't hurt anyone when I throw it.
Knock out an alien.
Yeah, if it kills an alien or wipes out a planet, so be it. It's worth it to get rid of it. And I don't think I'll ever meet Rick Rubin. I don't think he'll ever hear this podcast.
Well, he's actually a guest on the show next week.
Okay, well. But yeah, I don't think he'd care that I don't like this book. But yeah, and that's the thing. Sometimes when I get gifted books, I'm like, okay, I can at least give it to someone. I was like, I don't want to give it to anyone. I wouldn't inflict it on anyone. I could give it to a charity shop, but it now has a water stain on it from something. I don't know. I don't know why I did.
You pouring water.
I didn't try and destroy it, but I guess I took it without the dust jacket in my bag.
Yeah.
I read it.
Have you read it cover to cover?
I read it cover to cover.
That's actually quite impressive. I don't know anyone who's read it.
I got less from it every page. I felt like it was taking from me. I felt like the negative impact it had on me.
It's made you a worse writer.
It's made me a worse person. Honestly, because then I wanted to look into Rick Rubin, and I was just like, oh, he just sits there when stuff is done. He just puts people in a room and takes credit for that. And it's okay. And there's something, I think I'm annoyed because I am jealous. I think I'm jealous of the success of this book. I think I'm jealous of the Rick Rubins of this world. Maybe there's a part of me that thinks I could be the connector and the guru and the font of wisdom, and maybe that's still to come. Yeah. And maybe someone will hold my very, pompous book in their hand one day and say, Dean Atta's How to Be Great.
I can see the front cover now.
And they'll be this is such self-important bullshit. And I hope they do.
Oh,
I hope I get to a point where people hate my work. And I have so much money, and and so many people that love my work that anyone hating it just doesn't matter to me. So I just don't feel like it's a really, this looks like a bullseye, firing shots right here.
Maybe that's what he was intended to do.
Yeah. Shots fired. So that is, I say that with my whole chest.
Fair play.
I hate this book, and I will throw it out the ship.
I respect it. Well, you can ceremonially throw it if you want. If you,
no,
you're allowed.
I respect books
we're in a bookshop.
as items, regardless of.
But as abstract entities, no.
And it will just keep floating.
Yeah, true. Maybe when the budget of the show expands, we will have an anti-gravity chamber that will be able to symbolize you actually throwing it.
Or could we use it as fuel? No, you can't.
Burning books. That feels like a lot.
Ooh, cut that out.
Dean Atta, burn book. Good thing.
We'll hide it somewhere.
Do you have a line from it that you hate the most, or is it just all of it?
Let's pick any line at random.
You can analyze.
The best work is the work you are excited about.
That's profound.
So profound. It's got whole double pages.
It's
on, an empty page and just that on its own.
The way it's spaced out like a poem.
The best work, line break, is the work you are excited about.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I'm quite moved.
This is called fake deep.
Pseudo profundity. Oh my god. Okay, well, on the we've thrown it into the void. It's been signed to obscurity forever. A great choice. We come to your final choice, Dean Atta.
Yes.
What is the book you would like to nominate to commit to the canon? That when perhaps your rocket ship may break apart, there's one book that humanity can be remembered by that you can commit to this canon that will go out into space. Nice little pun of the canon. What are you committing to the canon?
This was probably like the hardest of them all. And I brought like tons of books that could go into this.
Oh, you can only take one.
Yeah. So I'm going to pick one in real time because I brought a lot and they kind of all have different
great books
meanings to me. But I think, I thought I knew, and I might change. Okay, no, I'm going to stick with the one that's on the top.
Okay, great.
Okay, so I have Canto and Other Poems by Joelle Taylor. One, I think Joelle Taylor is an incredible person. She has done so much for writers of several generations. I feel like she's an inspiration amongst her peers, but to so many younger writers, you know, through Slambassadors, an organization she set up, through so many other initiatives she's been a part of, and through her writing. And I think this represented, you know, queer women in a really amazing way and showed me things about like lesbian culture that I knew nothing about. You know, like I think it's funny, like being in the LGBT umbrella, you think, you know, we all know about each other, but like I think as a gay man I probably know least about lesbians. Like so that was really interesting to read because, you know, there were some things I was familiar with, but so many things that just I knew nothing. And it really like broadened my horizons, gave me so much kind of empathy and kind of for Joelle as a person, for the people that she's kind of been surrounded by and have made her the person she is. It's a real kind of like testament to community, to solidarity amongst women and queer women in particular, and kind of like fighting for your humanity, like, and I think she's just put something really powerful. It obviously has done amazing things. It won the T.S. Eliot Prize, and you know, and she has been just amazing with it, like the way she's got it out there and what it's meant to so many people. And so I just think, you know, this as a record of kind of like poetry, and like formally it's really interesting as well. She's done a lot cinematic detail in it. She's kind of like, some of the poems are set out like stage directions or directions for filming, and some of the poems are more conventional poems and some are prose poems. And I just like find the kind of the layout, the book, the experience, even like the generosity of kind of like giving you know, glossaries and kind of like explaining things that, you know, it's written to kind of let people in. It doesn't exclude, it really invites you in. It really kind of like gives you a kind of a window, or more so like holds your hand and takes you around a space that Joelle's created for you to see what's kind of like important to her, and therefore, you know, it becomes important because she's made it so in book form. And I think that's what books can do. Like they can kind of represent people and communities that might otherwise be forgotten, and I don't want these people or communities to be forgotten. So I will canonize this one.
Beautiful choice. And a beautiful note on which to leave it, Dean. Fantastic nomination. It's in the canon. It's in there. It's been committed. Fantastic. That's lovely. And we've had different choices every time so far. So that's fantastic. Great. So beautiful choices, Dean. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've got one last question before we close. I think this was in the briefing pack. I hope it was. Basically, as you leave the solar system, you're allowed to send back one last transmission to Earth. It could be a letter to a loved one. It could be a video message, call, voice note. Do you have a message you would want to send back to one person specifically, or to family, friends? Is it one?
This was not in the briefing.
I'm so sorry. This is terrible. I'm putting
what have other people done? Have they written something?
Some people have written. Some people have done like a live stream on their OnlyFans. We had one OnlyFans model. The letters, handwritten letters, thoughtful letters. And they've read them out? No, it's kind of been composed on the spot. Yeah, I'm sorry. Maybe it was omitted from... No, that's really special. How far in the future are we right now? You're an indeterminate period of time. 5 to 10 years.
Wow.
Or any loved one who you might want to write to or communicate with will still be around.
Okay.
If that's, yeah.
So why am I leaving if the Earth's still going?
Basically, there's a dystopia. There's things have gone wrong. We're not quite sure what has gone wrong, but something has gone wrong. But you are one of the lucky few who gets put onto a rocket ship. But there are some people you care about will still be down on Earth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if I'm in this ship alone, I've left my partner behind, which is a shame because she loves an adventure. We've got a camper van and, we go around the UK. We've gone a lot around Wales and the Scottish Highlands. And and I know he wants us to go around Europe. And so I'd be saying, I'm adventuring further than, we could have ever imagined. And I'm doing it on behalf of both of us because you've kind of given me an adventurous spirit through like the adventures we've had together. And even though you're not with me, like our love is gonna go on in space, and I'll write about you and I'll send you a few notes if I'm allowed.
That's it. That's the last transition. You're done.
Oh, final transmission. I love you, and it's amazing to feel loved. So thank you.
Beautiful. It's a beautiful note almost to leave it. Dean Atta, it's been a genuine pleasure talking to you this afternoon.
Thank you.
In the heat of Southwest London. But yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's boiling.
That is it for another episode of Rocket Ship Reads. We will see you next week for another episode. Thank you for joining us.